Harsha Razdan joins us, partner and head of consumer markets with KPMG India. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. First things first, do you have a wave of disruption which is happening in the global retail space, the food category? But in India, it's a completely different kettle of fish. If I go by the market cap, what a DMart or a Trent, what the Reliance retail is projecting, India must be the only market where food and grocery and the retail businesses are valued as if there is no problem in the world, there is no Amazon in the world, and there's no disruption in the world.
We must remember that India, the consumer is still evolving. Although our economy has slowed down a little bit, we are much stronger in terms of growth versus any of the Western economies. Our macros, economic criteria still remain strong from the working age population, etc. The stimulants in the economy, also in terms of data going dirt cheap, the fact that a lot of digital initiatives have been put in by the government, the UPI, has also tried to cue the consumer to become much more spend savvy. The government has also spent and launched initiatives around FDI along the Make in India perspective and allowing retailers which are single brand to go online. So there's a lot of activity happening in this space, to be honest. And as we are an evolving economy, I don't think we can be compared exactly to the West, and hence we'll have a different trajectory and a stronger trajectory in the near future.
The Indian consumer evolving, where data can be interpreted both ways. Data makes life easy for consumers to use platforms and shop online. You don't have to stand in a queue or go to a crowded mall to do your purchases. The millennials want to buy, consume everything on their smartphones. So my question to you is that whereas the Indian consumer will consume, it will grow, our per capita is going to remain strong, will the Indian millennial skip a generation? So instead of walking to a store, will they just order everything on an app online?
What's also happened in the West, and if you trace the West or China, it's never been that everything has moved totally to online or the physical trade has disappeared. It's always going to be an omni-channel world, but all types of trade, mom and pop, modern trade and e-commerce will be in equilibrium. We are still at a stage where e-commerce is coming into the country, the penetration is improving. I guess it will continue to improve, but I guess over a period of time, all types of channels will remain, and the consumer will have the choice to test out, go and examine, go and sort of look at something in physical trade, buy online, or go and look at online, buy in physical trade. I think everything, all three channels will remain robust over the next 15 to 20 years in this country.
Who do you think is actually going to be the winner in retail? Let's say over the next decade, if we take a slightly longer view, but who do you really see as having the potential to emerge as the winner?
I think players who have the consumer at the center, players that have a strong private label focus, players that have an omni-channel play. When I mean omni-channel, they have physical stores and an e-commerce play. These players will be much stronger over the next few years as compared to players which are only e-commerce players or only modern trade players, for sure. So there are many people in the fray right now. It remains to be seen who will win, but certainly someone who can play all kinds of physical and non-physical modes will certainly be much more stronger.
Everyone is talking about reach. From IndusInd Bank to Reliance, everyone is saying, look, we've got a network, we've got a branch, we've got a data, we'll open more Kirana stores, we will open more connected stores. So I wonder if everybody is trying to do the same thing, who will be the differentiator? When we speak to Reliance, when we speak to DMart, when we speak to Tata's, the idea to grab and idea to really monetize the data, I think is everyone's endeavor. But when everybody is doing the same thing, I hope too many cooks will not spoil the broth.
I don't think it'll be a case of too many cooks spoiling the broth. I think the broth will settle down to the top few 5 or 6 players. It happens in every industry that when an industry evolves and when the consumer is changing, you have multiple initiatives being picked up, multiple data needs, but slowly and steadily, the larger players seem to evolve. There will be acquisitions in the space, players may become larger, and the top 3 or 4 will approximately occupy about 80% of the space. This happens across the world, but we are still in a growing economy. So I think very early days to present who will win, and that's why you see multiple companies, everyone trying to do the same thing. But yes, it will settle down over a period of the next 8 to 10 years.
So let's think about who possibly wouldn't survive. If we just tilt the question the other way, and I know I'm putting you in the spot there, but let's just probe a little bit and get a sense of where you feel somebody would, or which of the companies you feel would lag behind in the evolving landscape.
I think any company which is only based on one kind of a channel will struggle over a longer period of time. So if you are actually hoping that you survive because of physical stores over the next 10 years only, it's not going to happen. Over a period of time, you will be marginalized and you will land up being a number 10 or number 12 kind of a player. If you're a pure e-com player, yes, I think the next few years is going to sort of help you grow. But over a period of time, if there's a physical retail player which has a stronger e-commerce play, it will eat into your space. So I think currently everyone is playing into one kind of a channel, but I think as the more they're able to play into different channels, that will be the winner. The more that you have private labels of your own, you will be the winner. You can't rely on other people's brands to drive your own firm beyond a point. The more your private label brands, the more your margin over a period of time.
Do you feel has been the highest in terms of growth as well, Harsha? Let's say in this decade, what we've seen, which category stands out?
Can you repeat the question, please? It cut a little bit.
Of course. Which of the categories in the last decade do you feel have outperformed and will continue to do so? Which ones have caught your attention?
So if you look at modern trade and e-commerce, it was very strongly occupied by electronics. That seemed to be sort of the trend, I would say, between 2015 to 20. But apparel, footwear, luxury good categories are catching on very fast. So I guess the next 5-7 years will continue to see a trend of penetration improvement in these categories. The more difficult one, which is food, grocery, perishables, I think may take a little bit of time, but that's more subjected to the kind of cold chain infrastructure and facilities that we have in our country, which may take a little bit of time to develop.
I'll ask you a very simple example. If somebody has to, let's say, buy a simple merchandise like tomato ketchup, you go online and you've got 50 brands. More and more brands are getting created. Retailers always had this unique advantage that they offered FMCG companies display and shelf space and help with penetration. If a lot of brands will be created on Facebook or internet with different offerings, more localized menu where big food companies or big retailers may not come in, what will happen to the uniqueness of brick and mortar stores?
I think the brick and mortar stores will have to re-engineer themselves too. Brick and mortar stores will have probably much lesser SKUs than what a e-commerce store would have. But I guess that is how the world is evolving. If you look at the food industry, the number of global brands that you have in food are much lesser than in personal care. That's because of the kind of needs and tastes different parts of the world have. I guess each and every retailer needs to keep the consumer at the center, re-engineer itself, see how fast or slow its competition, whether it's mom and pop trade or the e-commerce is evolving, and then shape its own path. There are retailers which have been very low on private label and slowly have gone strong on private label because they found a niche around it, and they are very strong examples of that with very high valuations right now. So I guess it's about consumer at the center and knowing how the competition is evolving and finding a niche for yourself which actually is strong enough to sustain your business over a longer term.
Thank you, Harsha. Good chatting with you today. And have a great day going ahead.